What's going to have to happen is we're going to have to pretty much end the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, because now Americans, it's not about what's best for America. It's, hey, is that a Republican thing or is that a Democratic thing? And based on what you've been voting, that's what you're going to go with. So if there's a really good Republican candidate, there's no way you're ever going to look at him if you're a Democrat. And that right there is unfair at its best. That has to be some type of discrimination, right? I know it sounds silly, but you're pretty much discriminating on the fact that he's a Republican. You know damn well you're not going to choose any of his articles. You're not going to read anything that he has to say based on the fact that he's a Republican, right? Or based on the fact that they're a Democrat. So, welcome to another episode of Unqualified News with your host, Mauricio. I got a couple stories for you guys. One is all the Iranian journalists are resigning. A lot of them are resigning. People that are in front of the television are resigning. Everybody knows in Iran, the news outlets are controlled by the regime. This is well known. Everybody knows it. But finally, they're getting fed up. They're getting fed up of pretty much getting a script for the news. So, touch on that. Then the Pensacola Navy attack that happened a month or two ago. There was 21 Saudis. They got brought over so that we can train them and then we can send them back trained. But we had a guy that committed a shooting. And then the one that's a lot closer to home is the volcano eruption in the Philippines, the Taal volcano. That one's pretty serious right now. That one's still going on right now. I mean, all these are still going on right now. They're all pretty serious. I also want to use this little bit of time that I'm in your ear right now to thank you. If you're listening to me right now, appreciate it. Thank you. This has become somewhat of a very, very fun hobby for me. And it keeps me very informed. It gives me a lot to talk about. And I hope it's giving you guys a lot to talk about as well. If you're not already following me, I have a Facebook page, Unqualified News Podcast. You probably already are following me. Thank you for that too. Comment on it. Let me know what you think. That's really what I want. We're gonna start getting a dialogue going. So I appreciate it. I'm getting more listeners. Every time I drop an episode, there's another new listener, or 2 or 3. And thank you. You guys are great. I really appreciate that. You guys are telling your friends. Thank you for that. Share my link. Let people know, hey, look, I know this guy that has a podcast about news. It's kind of funny. It's kind of not. It's kind of dumb. Whatever it is, man. Somebody will take something from my episodes, whether it be positive or negative. It's okay. If you think maybe they'll get inspiration and have their own podcast. And I would love to listen to that. If you have your own podcast, please let me know. I started listening to a podcast. Billy Dean. His podcast is called No Disclosure. Hilarious individual, very real, down-to-earth guy. So what Billy Dean does in No Disclosure, you can look for it anywhere where podcasts are podcasted. It's called No Disclosure. So he goes through the news as well, similar to what I do, except he's much funnier. So definitely go listen to him. He's very funny. Everybody has enough time. All right, enjoy the episode. Iran state TV sees at least 2 anchors quit. Forgive me for the 13 years I told you lies. This one comes from Fox News. At least 2 Iranian journalists at a state-owned media outlet reportedly resigned from their jobs, with one of them apologizing to viewers for the 13 years I told you lies. As Tehran continues to grapple with the fallout from protests stemming from a cover-up of its accidental downing of a Ukrainian airliner, TV anchor Jalair Jabari addressed her viewers on an Instagram post that appears to have been deleted. Accidental downing. I keep hearing that Iran accidentally downed in a Ukrainian airliner. How do you accidentally blow up an airliner? It was very hard for me to believe that our people have been killed, the post read, according to The Guardian. Forgive me that I got to know this late, and forgive me for the 13 years I told you lies. Two other news anchors at the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting, IRIB, thanked their supporters in separate statements. "Thank you for accepting me as an anchor until today," said Sarah Khatami. "I will never get back to TV. Forgive me." Fellow anchor Saba Rad said she was leaving journalism after 21 years. "Thank you for your support in all years of my career," she said. "I announced that 21 years working in radio and TV, I cannot continue my work in the media. I cannot." The resignations come as Iranians again took to the streets in anti-government protest Monday. Many are calling for the ouster of the government leaders after the shooting down of a Ukrainian passenger plane that Iran initially denied responsibility for. Tehran later walked back its denial and admitted to downing the plane in a misfire during attacks on bases in Iraq where American troops are housed. The attacks followed the killing Iranian Quds General Qasem Soleimani in a U.S. strike. The resignations come as some Iranians have an unfavorable view of the media, which is tightly controlled by the regime. The protests have led to reported harsh crackdowns by security forces, further fragmenting the relationship between regime, the media, and Iranians. The Tehran-based Association of Iranian Journalists said the public was witnessing a funeral for public trust. Gangbar Naderi, a commentator of Iran's state-run Press TV, said the regime lies about the airliner have eroded the public trust in its leaders and state media broadcasters. Millions and millions took to the streets following the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, Naderi told BBC Radio Today. It was a rare moment of unity, but the IRGC blew it. As a journalist, you need to be able to sleep at night. I will never, ever distance myself from the truth. This, a great nation, it has made many mistakes that are unacceptable. If the IRGC shot down a civilian plane, I have no choice but to condemn it. In a statement, the Association of Iranian Journalists said, "State-owned media outlets have lost public confidence after publishing false or misleading information. We lie loudest when we lie to ourselves." And Islamic Republic of Iran state television employees acknowledge that their credibility has been lost, the group said, according to the newspaper. Unaware that the credibility of this media and most of the domestic media had long since vanished. It should be noted, however, that other media outlets objected to the situation, but the Islamic Republic of Iran state TV favored. The statement continued. This incident showed that people cannot trust official data and journalists should try to fill this gap as much as possible. Reporters Without Borders ranks Iran as one of the most repressive states of journalists. It said state control of the news is unrelenting, and at least 860 journalists have been imprisoned or executed since 1979 Islamic Revolution. Independent journalists, citizen journalists, and independent media are constantly subjected to intimidation, arbitrary arrest, and long jail sentences imposed by revolutionary courts at the end of unfair trials, the organization said. There's a lot of stuff going on right now in Iran, and this is just one more to that, one more thing to add to the confusion of everything that's going on. Here in the United States, we're still here trying to figure out why was Qasem Soleimani killed, And by the news, it seems like we have already done with that. Like, we've already taken, the U.S.'s word for it. Like, okay, we're good, we're done, everything's okay. That's what it seems like to me on my end, but I know that that's not the case. I know that there's still fighting going on. We're just not reporting on it. Hey, before I forget, this is a commercial for Anchor. Anchor, who hosts my podcast, they help me distribute it to Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much all the podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you know what I mean? You can add music, you can edit your clips on your phone or your computer, and all this is free, so that's really good. On the homepage, there's a wallet, and in that wallet shows all the money you've been making from your episodes if you put commercials, you know what I mean? Like this one. You don't have to put commercials, but I decided to put it because I want you guys to hear this. I want you guys to know it's so easy. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Alright, this article comes from the Al Jazeera app. U.S. expels 21 Saudi cadets after Florida naval base attack probe. 21 Saudi military cadets undergoing training in the United States will be sent back to Saudi Arabia following an investigation into the fatal shooting of 3 Americans by a Saudi officer at a Florida naval base that U.S. Attorney General William Barr on Monday branded as an act of terrorism. Saudi Air Force Second Lieutenant Mohammed Saeed al-Shamrani, 21, killed 3 sailors and wounded 8 others before being fatally shot by a deputy sheriff during the December 6 incident at the facility in Pensacola, Florida, an official said. The attack brought fresh complications to U.S.-Saudi relations at a time heightened tensions between the U.S. and Iran, Saudi Arabia's regional rival. This was an act of terrorism, Barr said. The evidence showed that the shooter was motivated by jihadist ideology. During the course of the investigation, we learned that the shooter posted a message on September 11 of 2019. The countdown has begun. Barr added that al-Shamrani also visited the New York City Memorial to the victims of the September 11, 2001 attacks on the U.S. and posted anti-American, anti-Israeli, and jihadi messages on social media, including 2 hours before the attack. Barr said 21 Saudi cadets were disenrolled from their training curriculum in the U.S. military and would leave the U.S. later on Monday after an investigation showed they either had child pornography or social media accounts containing jihadi messages and anti-American content. Man, jeez, disgusting fucks. During a news conference, Barr, the top U.S. law enforcement official, said there was no evidence of assistance by other Saudi trainees or that any of them had knowledge in advance of the December shooting attack. Saudi Arabia provided complete and total support to the American investigation of the incident, Barr said. Barr added, 1 Saudi individual had a significant number of such images, while 14 others had 1 or 2 images, in most cases posted in a chat room by someone else or received over social media. The derogatory information fell short of the standard for triggering U.S. criminal charges, Barr said. However, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia determined that this material demonstrated conduct unbecoming of an officer in the Royal Saudi Air Force and in the Royal Navy, Barr said, adding that the 21 cadets have been disenrolled from their training curriculum in the U.S. military and will be returning to Saudi Arabia later today. Man, I heard back. Yeah, December 6th, it was a horrible attack. I briefly was glancing at the news at this time. You know, it was the holidays, a lot of stuff going on. But even with the holidays going on and all that stuff, life still is moving, right? People are still getting shot. People are still getting killed. People are still becoming radicalized. This is like 20 plus Saudi Arabian individuals, I guess, came here to train. Probably most of them wanted to come here, train, be better so they can go back to their country and be an asset, right? But because of this bad apple, that's not even giving it justice of what a piece of shit this guy is, but because of this piece of shit apple, now all these guys gotta go back home in a way with their tails tucked between, they gotta go back to their families and said, hey, yeah, they sent me back because this piece of shit went and did this, It's tough. Alrighty, you know that jingle. It's time for Trump's tweets. At Real Donald Trump. Mini Mike Bloomberg is playing poker with his foolhardy and unsuspecting Democrat rivals. He says that if he loses, he really means when, in the primaries, he will spend money helping whoever the Democrat nominee is. By doing this, he figures, they won't hit him as hard. During his hopeless presidential campaign, they will remain silent. The fact is, when Mini loses, he will be spending very little of his money on these clowns, because he will consider himself to be the biggest clown of them all. And he will be right. And that's his tweet. Yeah, you're right. That did seem kind of long for a tweet. So that was a 2-part tweet. I did him the justice of just reading it the way he wanted it to be typed out, And this one has about total Both of them added 70,000 loves, 18,000 retweets, 14,000 comments. Yeah, there's an impeachment trial going on right now. I tried to tune in a couple times. It went live. CNN notified me, hey, we're going live on the impeachment trial. I was watching. I was trying to pay attention, but still now I'm not understanding what's happening. I kind of got an idea, but they're doing a very, very good job at making this very difficult for the public to understand. Just want you to know that. Last Tuesday in the Philippines, lava shot out a volcano. The lava and dozens of earthquakes could signal a bigger eruption soon. More than 40,000 people have evacuated. This is a story from weather.com, the weather channel. Philippines volcano spews lava a half a mile into the sky. Thousands flee. The Taal volcano south of the Philippines capital blasted lava fountains a half a mile into the sky last Tuesday and continued to rumble with dozens of earthquakes, possibly signaling a larger eruption. Half a mile. Wow. From where you are right now standing, start walking half a mile just so you can get an idea of how far away this lava spewed out, As ash continued to fall across the southern end of the island of Luzon, tens of thousands of people evacuated their villages. More than 40,000 evacuees in the Batangas and Cavite provinces have sought shelter in nearly 200 evacuation centers, according to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. Plans were made to evacuate hundreds of thousands more as experts warned the eruption could escalate. Nearly 500,000 people live within the 9-mile danger zone around the volcano. My wife and half my family are from the Philippines, so she probably was living about 9 miles from the danger zone. The alert was raised to 4, indicating a hazardous eruption is possible in hours or days, immediately after the volcano began expelling plumes of ash and steam about midday Sunday. Ash has fallen as far away as the capital city, Manila, 40 miles north of the volcano. Manila, yeah, that's where my wife is from. She's Filipina, so this story definitely sticks out. This story is definitely hits close to home, Hundreds of flights were canceled at Ninoy Aquino International Airport. Schools and government offices shut down, and the Department of Health warned of the potential harmful effects of the ash. Stores quickly ran out of protective masks. The airport resumed normal operations on Tuesday, but it is crowded with people trying to get on flights. The airport's general manager Ed Monreal said, more than 330 volcanic earthquakes have been recorded since then, as of 10 a.m. Monday. These new strong continuous earthquakes that we are now experiencing due to fissuring, which means that there really is magma that is still making its way out of Taal. Mariton Bornas, chief of volcano monitoring and eruption at the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, told CNN. Renato Solidum, director of Volcano Institute, told the Associated Press, the speed and the rise of magma is important in determining when the volcano will have a strong eruption and if it will slow down and freeze. As of now, we don't see activity slowing down and the earthquakes will continue. Solidum warned residents that it is much too soon to return to their villages. Richard Gordon, chairman of the Philippine Red Cross, told CNN the evacuated areas look like ghost towns, with houses filled with ash. There's been some rain, many have collapsed already, Gordon said. If you live in the area, you'd probably be terrified. Ash can mix with rain and create a sludge that is heavier than snow. The government has warned people not to eat fish from the lake surrounding the volcano, the Philippine Star reported. Fish contaminated by high sulfur levels could cause stomachache, vomiting, and diarrhea, the Department of Health said. The volcano's eruption has also killed much of the livestock living in Taal Island, the Philippine Inquirer said. So far, no human deaths have been caused by the eruption, AP reported. The death of a driver in a crash on an ash-covered road was linked to a slippery condition. At least 6 people were taken to the hospital in Tagatay City in Cavite because of respiratory ailments caused by the ash. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said. Been seeing this on the news, like I said. My wife's from the Philippines, and pretty much half my family's from the Philippines. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, of course. And yeah, we've been following this news very closely. My mother-in-law, she's out of state right now, and she actually sent me a note from one of her friends that is from the Philippines regarding this. I'm sure she won't mind me reading it. So somebody from the Philippines, wrote to my mother-in-law, Mamay, over here, and this is what her friend said. To my dearest friends and family, please do not take this ashfall lightly. For one, the term ashfall is misleading. There is no ash. A big portion of the ash is actually microscopic pieces of glass coming from the intense heating of sand and rock coming from the volcano. Inhaling the same could cause serious damage to your lungs and other organs. Remember, it is not ash, but it is microscopic pieces of glass. She's so right, We keep hearing, oh, ash everywhere. So our brains just think of ash as just this soft, dirty thing, right? We think, oh, we gotta clean up a lot after. But this is small, microscopic pieces of glass flying around. And now they're in the Philippines, their masks, they were off the shelves with the quickness, right? They ran out of those masks. What about the people that don't have the masks? It's insane. I mean, we're here in America. Of course, we are going to get those type of stories. We're going to get those stories that minimize everything going on around the world except the things that we want the attention. There's so many things going on in American politics right now that are taking over our news, that something this huge, something this massive, that deserves much, much more attention is kind of pushed off to the wayside. Just a couple of days ago, I'm sitting there watching the news with my wife, and ABC or NBC comes on and says, oh, earthquake in the Philippines, eruption, ash everywhere. And it's just, that was the story. The story was like a 30-second clip, and then boom, they get back to, Donald Trump and Iran. You know what I'm saying? It's difficult to see that. We looked at each other like, what? That was it? We were waiting for that story, and it went as fast as 30 seconds, so...